Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Joe and welcome to a brand new episode in the Outfit Battle series. I know this one's long overdue, the last one was released at late February, it's literally been over 2 months, and all I can do is apologise, but we are back now in full force. So if you don't know the concept of this series, essentially you guys send me in screenshots of your nicest or best looking loadout for a chance of it appearing in this series. Once it's submitted, there's a chance that it will appear against someone else's, and you then get to vote who wins. So for example, like if 2 people submit a heavy loadout, they'll be paired together and you guys have got to vote who you think is nicer, and the victor will be shown in the next episode. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the results from the last episode, because we had a lot of nice loadouts, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see who won what. So the first loadout battle was between the demo men of Space and Eli. There was 175 votes cast in total, and 54% of which went to Space, meaning he came out on top with a grand total of 94 votes. Up next we saw a battle between the heavies of Bearded Expense and Winter Schnee. This one was a lot less close, with 236 votes cast in total. 162 of those votes went to Bearded Expense, while 74 votes went to Winter Schnee, meaning Bearded Expense came out on top with a total of 69% of the votes. Up next we had one that was even further apart. It was the Scouts of Mwenster Monster versus Samur. There was 145 votes cast in total, and 71% of them went to Monster, meaning he came out on top with 103 votes in comparison to Samur's 42. Round 4 was the medic round. We had Neil's medic loadout versus Yellow's medic loadout. 168 votes were cast in total, and interestingly enough, 68% of those went to Yellow, who ended up coming out on top with 115 votes cast his way, as opposed to the 53 that Neil's received. And finally we had round 5, which we saw the face-off of the Pyro of Orna versus the Pyro of Desmond. 224 votes were cast in total, 153 of which went in the way of Orna, meaning he came out on top against the 71 votes that went for Desmond. That concludes the voting and the results from the last round. Now let's get into today's episode. So first up we have a face-off between 2 spy loadouts. This first one belongs to Deefect, who's using a green painted slithering scarf, a green painted backstabber's boomslang, and an ethereal hood painted team spirit. Now this is a really peculiar loadout because the ethereal hood is of course a Halloween cosmetic, but I love how the slithering scarf and the backstabber's boomslang work together, and I think it's really good as well. It's a good thing to note, he didn't use the same shade of green on both of them, so one snake is slightly darker than the other, which I think is a really nice touch. I think the team painted on the hood looks awesome and goes great with the kind of default tuxedo that the spy has, and even the green on the snakes goes well with the green in the eyes of the hood. Like, this is honestly a flawless spy loadout, and I would personally use this myself. This is going to be going against Mario Spazov's spy loadout, who's actually using 2 body cosmetics. 2 of them are painted gold, being the Dead of Night, the Fancy Fedora, and the Rogue's Robe, of course the last 2 of which are being painted gold. I think it's actually really interesting to see how the robe works with the Dead of Night. And the fact the Dead of Night is left unpainted is actually quite cool. If it was painted gold as well, I think it would be a bit too much, but it's a nice kind of colour block. I've never seen the Dead of Night actually comboed with the Rogue, and now I look at it, I think the collar on the Dead of Night and the whole robe aspect of the Rogue's Robe actually works really well together. My only kind of minor quibble with this loadout is the Fancy Fedora. I feel like maybe a larger hat would have been a bit more appropriate for this loadout, but nonetheless, this is still really nice looking. I think the paint works great, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Up next, we have the battle of 2 heavy loadouts, the first one of which being Grandpa Max's heavy loadout. This consists of a grey painted Minnesota Slick, a strange heavy tourism, and the man of the house. The heavy tourism is painted green, and I think that works really well with the Terrorbot on that Minnesota Slick. I think that's a really cool colour coordination there. One thing I would say though is this loadout's actually meant to be themed from a character in Ben 10, I believe, called Grandpa Max. And honestly, the resemblance is uncanny. Like, this loadout looks exactly like this Grandpa Max character from Ben 10, just maybe without the electricity running through his head. But either way, I love how the heavy tourism works with this, like, man of the house, like these trousers and this Hawaiian shirt really does give you the vibe of this like elderly gentleman, and the grey hair really does pursue that well. So that is a really cool loadout choice, and it's nice to see a lot of themed loadout. And speaking of themed loadouts, it's only right if this one goes up against another themed loadout. Normally Duke Nukem loadouts are presented on the soldier, however we've actually got a Duke Nukem loadout on the heavy. The nuke is comboed with the Borscht belt and once again the man of the house, and I mean they look really good together. I feel like the Borscht belt is kind of out of place, like something like the Hunter Heavy or the Commissar's coat would have went slightly better, but maybe that doesn't really fit in with the Duke Nukem loadout. I really don't know the character too well. But the man of the house once again works perfectly. I just think the man of the house is such a versatile cosmetic, honestly. You can make so many different loadouts with that thing. But either way though, it's going to be interesting to see who you guys think comes out on top out of these two themed loadouts. Up next, let's get back into some unusuals with our first demo man loadout being Cossack 123's demo man. Here we see earbuds, the Merc's Mohawk, a strange bruiser's bandana, and a duck journal as well. I just thought it'd be worth noting the duck journal, as it is right in the middle of his body. But I really like this loadout due to the fact the Merc's Mohawk's one of my favourite all-class hats, especially on the demo. I think it looks great. My one quibble with this loadout is that the earbuds aren't really too noticeable, and maybe if you were to replace it with some sort of body cosmetic for the demo, it can even be an all-class one like the Dead of Night, just something to kind of liven up the body region in this loadout. You could be onto something huge, even if it was like pink painted or purple painted to go with that purple energy, that could be great. Nonetheless though, I like the simplicity of this loadout. The bandana and the mohawk go great together. I'd just love to see a body cosmetic. This is going to be paired up against another demo man loadout, being Leftclick's demo man. Here we see the sharp shin shredders, Jesus that's hard to say, Bruiser's bandana once again, painted Team Spirit, and a Team Spirit Executioner. The bandana and the Executioner go fantastically because you can only really see the demo man's eyes, especially when they're team painted. It just looks great. The shin shredders is awesome as well, and it kind of makes up for the fact that you can't really see the body cosmetics region because it's covered by a sword and a shield, so that is definitely excused for. I think the shin shredders are great, and it does give this kind of demo night theme that Leftclick said he was trying to portray in the Discord. I love the hat and Miss Cosmetic of the bandana and the Executioner. I might even have to use that one myself if I do pick up an unusual Executioner. Our next round goes to the Pyro, and this is a really interesting loadout. This is Gastar's Pyro, and it consists of a Lil Bitey, the Crusader's Getup, and the Pyro the Flame Deer. What I find particularly interesting is not only the fact that the Lil Bitey is an all-class hat, but I love how the Flame Deer's horns go through the ears, like in the exact same position, almost where you can't notice that they're clipping. I think that works great together, and the big set of eyes on the Flame Deer and the small button eyes on the Bitey also look awesome together. The Crusader's Getup is a really nice cosmetic as well, but it's not really too noticeable in this screenshot specifically, but it might be noticeable in game. But either way, I just love those two head cosmetics. I don't think I've ever seen them used together before, but it's a really cool combo, 100%. And speaking of good cosmetic combinations, here's another one. This is Megoioo's Pyro, apologies if I said that wrong, and we see the cute suit paired with the cat's pajamas and the summer shades. I've never seen the cat's pajamas used in a serious loadout, but I really like how the cute suit and the cat's pajamas work together. Like, it literally looks like it's part of the same cosmetic and they're joined at the neck region, which I absolutely love. It just looks really good. It's almost like it's a onesie. And the summer shade is a nice yellow colour in the middle that breaks up the default team colour of the cute suit and the cat's pajamas. Like, I can't fault either of these loadouts. This one's definitely going to be very close if I was to say so. And lastly, we're going to be looking at a battle between medics. This first loadout belongs to Sizzle. I don't know the specific effects, but I'm going to assume that it consists of a Harvest Moon Ushanka, a Circling Peace Sign Blighted Beak, and a black painted Max's Severed Head, finished off with a Haunted Phantasm Resultser Intaunt. Now, I really like how this loadout works, and I think the colour of the Haunted Phantasm goes perfectly with that Harvest Moon. I love the black paint on the Ushanka with the Max's Severed Head, and the white of the beak really does break that apart nicely. One thing I would say though is the peace sign doesn't really fit in. Like, I mean, it is, I suppose it is a nice colour block, but at the same time, the circling peace sign, which is yellow and purple, really doesn't go too well with the taunt and the, effect combo. But I think the cosmetics themselves work perfectly together, and overall, this is a really strong loadout. Coming up next, this is going against MPDZ's medic loadout, which consists of Terawatt Slick Cut, I believe. I'm just going off of knowledge here, like he's renamed all of these items. So a Terawatt Slick Cut, a medical mystery, and a fashionable megalomaniac. That took far too long for me to find out the name of that cosmetic. But speaking of that, I think it actually works really well with the slick cut. I think the beard almost blends straight into the haircut of the slick cut. And the white paint on it really does kind of contrast it well. Like, those two cosmetics work great together. I can't really see the medical mystery, unfortunately, due to the taunt, but I'm sure it looks good. I can just see the collar popping up around the neck of the medic. So guys, if you want to vote for any of these matchups, the link will be down below. All you need to do is click it, verify that you're not a robot or whatever that means, and then just vote for the loadout that you thought was nicest. It literally takes about 2 seconds and really does help this series progress. Leave a like if you enjoyed, let me know your thoughts down below. Yeah, thanks again for watching guys, and peace.